Hello everybody. I'm going to be doing some more Bible journaling today on gratitude and thanksgiving. And I've got the notes from the gratitude and thanksgiving journaling kit from Thanks September here. And I'm going to be doing one of the passages in the first study, which is cultivating an attitude of gratitude. And I'm going to be looking at Psalm 100, which many of us know very well indeed. And basically it's got some fabulous quotes in there. So it's the one that starts, "Shout for joy to the Lord, all the earth, worship the Lord with gladness, come before him with joyful songs, know that the Lord is God." And I love that vision of coming before God and just shouting with gladness. You know, when you see children in a primary school playground and you know, when they're really happy, they do literally just shout with gladness. And I think that's the kind of image that the Psalm's trying to get to. Now, you'll see I'm using an aqua brush and some watercolour here. And I'm not worrying about getting these pages very wet. This is the A5 journal out of the set, out of the journaling kit. And it's got very thick paper. And consequently, it can take a really good wash. And so I'm not worrying about getting this wet. It's going to buckle a tiny bit. It's not going to crinkle. It's cartridge paper and it's just got a really good tolerance for something that's wet. I also have journals in the shop that are great for watercolour and don't bleed, but the pages go crinkly and so they probably couldn't take quite this much water. Whereas this particular one can, and so it's great. The downside, of course, is the paper's quite thick, so you don't get so many pages, but you can't have everything. There we go. So now the psalm goes on to talk about how we were made by God and we're his people and the sheep of his pasture. And I really like that image. I'm currently writing the material for October, which is all about Psalm 23. Of course, the Lord is my shepherd, that very well-known one. And so I'm thinking a lot about what it means to be God's sheep. And I'll be putting a kit and a workshop together for October on the theme of Psalm 23. But the sheep theme is right the way through the Bible, and it comes into this passage as well, where it's talking about us being the flock of his pasture. So in the context of saying God knows us and made us, it says, you know, we're his sheep. And I'm not very good at drawing sheep myself, but I don't know if you can see that, I've got this picture of a sheep in this Daphne's diary, and I'm just going to kind of copy it, I think. It's going to be a bit cartoony, but I don't mind that, and I kind of feel like, well, my life is a bit cartoony sometimes, so that's probably quite appropriate. I'm just doing it in pencil, don't know why really. Oh yeah, look, I might do some more. Now there are 5 people in my family, so I might actually even end up with 5 sheep. I'm just sketching these in very roughly at the minute to you've got to have a laugh when you're doing this, you know. This is not high art, is it? But it's great fun. There we go. That's 4. One more. There we go. Right. I'm not going to dare to suggest which sheep is who, because I'll get in big trouble if any of my family see this. I think that one needs its eye to be a bit further. Oh, I've gone and blurred it. Never mind. There we go. That's better. Okay, so that's some sheep, and I might ink those in later. Now I'm feeling like this bit down here is going to need a bit more colour, and what I'm planning to do is to use a new stencil that I just got recently for the workshops. I actually got the whole set for use in the workshops of these brand new stencils that Hobbycraft had just brought out, and I really love them because they're the right size for a journal page, and most stencils are so big that they just they wouldn't really go on a journal page, whereas these are perfect. They're not going to smudge all over the pages when I start spreading the paint around. And I'm using this Cosmic Shimmer paint, acrylic mixed media paint, And this is probably not going to end up very neat, but I'm just going to slap some on. And what I'm thinking about here is the idea of shout to the Lord all the earth. You know, the shouting for joy when we come before God, these kind of bursts of noise and splatter. And I kind of feel like that's quite true to my life. You know, I have bursts of sadness and bursts of joy, and I'm not very consistent anyway wise, but that's kind of how it is. Now if I put that down there, I'm going to seriously splat on top of the other one, so I'll just do this one here, I think. There we go. And this little stencil's very easy to wash off. Now I'll stick it in the sink later. Now you see that what's happening there is you're getting a bit of dimension with the paint, and I like that. When it dries, it will dry a little bit proud of the watercolour. So I'm using acrylic on watercolour. You can't use watercolour on acrylic. You always have to have the thinner paint on the background, because the thicker paint will go on the thinner. If I did a watercolour wash over there, obviously it wouldn't show up at all. Now I've got some of the washi tape from the kit here, and I'm using the heart as a symbol in this kit, I suppose, to represent my heart, literally, and my gratitude to God in my heart for all that he's done for me, and for his presence with us through all times, the tough times and the good times. And what this psalm does is it really encourages us to celebrate. So when things are good, well, let rip, shout, come before him with joyful songs. And as we get into the habit of that, then it's possible to praise God even when we're not feeling like it. And I think that's what the discipline of this month of gratitude is all about, really. It's getting into the habit. So I'm going to just put some lettering up here, and I think I'm going to use this. What colour shall I use? Let's use this gold. I don't know how well it's going to show up, but there's a kind of goldy colour in the washi tape there, and I'm just picking that up. So I'm going to put some letters in, and I'm going to try and just embellish them a bit. The paper's still a bit wet. I should really have left it to dry more, but I'm getting away with it, and I think I'm going to go back over with the pen once it's all completely dry and just fill that in a bit. But you see the idea there coming along, shout. And by the time I've finished with this, it's going to look quite loud. And I'm not going to do it in the video because it's just going to make a horrible mess, but I might come back later and splatter some gold ink over all of this, which will really make it shout. Right, so that's that. So shout for joy, and I think the joy bit needs to really be reflected in here as well. So I'm just going to put that there and add these words in here. There's been lots of discussion, workshops and online, about how much writing you do with creative journaling, and honestly, it's entirely up to you. Some of us need to write a lot, and some of us are people of words, and you know, words are really important to us, and others of us struggle with words and don't need to use so many. And you know who you are, and you can experiment out of your comfort zone, and you can also stay within your comfort zone depending on how you feel, and it's entirely up to you. That's a little sticker from the kit there just saying thank you, like the gold on that. And I think I'm going to put another one there as well. Thank you, which to me seems appropriate. Now let's get on to these little sheep down here. I'm going to use this. This is one of those double-ended felt tip pens, so you get double for your money. 2 nibs. I'm just going to ink these in, and then I'll colour them later. Maybe put a little bit of pink on the ears. Just give him a little smile. Or is it a she? There are three women in our family and 2 guys. There we go. So as I say, these are very cartoony, but it's about the symbolic and what they represent. And for me, they represent God's care for our family and the fact that we are the sheep of his pasture. And, whether we're at home or far away, we are always in his fold. And I really love the truth of that. I find it amazing that God is there with us wherever we are. So holding on to that, particularly those of us at the stage of having children leaving home, you have to hold on to the fact that God is there with them, whatever happens. Whatever happens. Really hard to take that on board sometimes. And it's all a matter of trust and faith. There we go. So that's some sheep, the people of his pasture, and I pray that his sheepfold will surround them, whatever happens, will surround us wherever we are. Now, I'm thinking we need a bit of green here, so I'm going to switch to I'm using the Prima watercolour confections here, which those of you who know me will know I have a passionate love for, and I'm just going to put a bit of grass in here, and while I'm doing that, I'm just praying that God will be the shepherd of my family and keep us safe in his sheepfold, and whatever's going on, we'll know his presence. There we go. Bit more of that green there. And these pens are not waterproof, so when I come up to them, as I just have, they will run a bit. Too bad. There we go. So that's that. A little pasture of sheep there. And I could go back in at the end and take out the pencil lines just with a rubber, and that would be fine. So just going to pop a bit of green pasture up there in case I want to add anything else up there. But just to kind of balance up the colour, I'm quite liking that up there. I don't know if you can see that. Right, so that's that. And let's go back to the psalm. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. So we're thinking about entering in and the welcome that God gives us. And I think I'm going to use this piece from the kit and just put that there and be thinking about welcome. And it's an amazing thought to be welcomed. If you're in a foreign country and you don't really know anybody, and then you find somebody who will welcome you, it's an amazing experience. You kind of think, gosh, they don't have to do that. Why are they welcoming me? I'm going to use another one of these little mini stencils. This is the heart one, which actually goes really nicely with this kit. And I'm just going to put a bit of the paint on down here. Now I realise as I'm doing this, I'm going to create a situation which will mean I can't really add anything else till it's dried. So the video might be going to stop quite soon, I think. But I'm just going to pop some of that on there, thinking about God's welcome and his love for us and the gratitude in my heart that then prompts. So, and this will probably bleed a bit underneath and it won't look amazing, but I know exactly what it means, and it's my prayer rather than my great art, that is important here. And I love that about this journaling thing, is you can just enjoy doing it. Look at that squidgy paint, it's gorgeous. And then whatever the finished result is a representation of a time you spent with God, and it may or may not look lovely. So that's a bit messy, but I actually quite like it. And what I might do once it's all dry is just kind of increase the wash so the contrast is stronger between the different colours on the page there. So a bit more blue watercolour. I'll probably add to that once it's all dry. So I'm thankful for God's welcome. And I'm going to stick this down. So this is a cardstock piece and it can take really strong wet glue because it's thick. And I should really wait for the watercolour to dry, but I'm not going to. So I'm thinking about entering his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. And, you know, who am I to have my praise accepted by God with all my questions, doubts, mistakes, and all the rest of it? And yet God sees Jesus in me and the goodness that is also in there, and therefore he welcomes. I mean, it's hard to get in touch with that, really. So I'm just going to put that word in here. And again, I'll go over that later probably. And it's not particularly neat lettering, doesn't matter. I can tidy it up later if I want to. But it's the sentiment that's the important thing. So thankful for welcome. And the response that it actually prompts in me is praise. His courts with praise. So I'm going to just welcome. I'm going to put a little arrow there. And put the word praise. Now my writing's gone very wiggly because I'm trying to avoid all the wet stuff here. There we go. Praise, and again the response is just thank you. So I'm going to use another one of these stickers here. And again, this also represents the attitude of gratitude. So I'm going to put, so I've got those going at that angle and that angle. So this one's going to go straight. And I've got the three of them there making a triangle, which is a nice balance on the page. So I like that. Now, I'm going to use the spaces to write some prayers of specific thanks. Obviously not going to put that on the video. And I'll be using these pages as time goes on to come back to. And what I might do actually is copy out the psalm. It's not very long, Psalm 100. It's just 5 verses. And I might actually copy out the different bits of the psalm around the page as well, so that the whole lot is on there somewhere. And I'll do that small, but I can't at the minute because this stuff's all still too wet. So this page is not finished. It's a work in progress. And isn't that true of life and faith and questions and prayer and praise and all those things? They're a work in progress. And I like the fact that right now this page really reflects that. I'll also be writing prayers around my family of sheep here for myself and my close family. And I hope that this was helpful and inspired you. I think the key thing with using the notes from the kit and doing the journaling is to use it all as a springboard that just brings some colour and life into your prayers. And it's not an end in itself, it's a means to an end. And the end is worship, praise, and closeness with God. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you again next time.